Hello, friends. My name is David DeBusk, and I'm coming to you today from Texas, and we're going to talk about something very serious, God's final warning. So much has changed on our earth in the last 70 years, especially regarding technology. A child today cannot begin to comprehend what it was like to walk to a neighbor's home, to borrow their phone to make a call, or to gather with family members around a huge box radio to listen to a news broadcast. They cannot even begin to imagine a world without television, movie streaming services, social media, and email. Education has become so secular that the average child evaluates everything through the lens of research, science, and engineering. Children of this generation are being taught that the world, the universe, and all that it contains are theirs. When a child looks up into the heavens, they see the sun, the moon, and the stars, giving little thought to the Creator who placed them in their place. They see celestial events such as the moon turning blood red, or the eclipse of the sun or the moon as random astronomical events to be studied and measured by astronomers and viewed through gigantic telescopes. People have become so sophisticated that they discount the divine and they overlook the obvious. What if I told you that events are decreed and that the universe is God's time clock, filled with signs of coming judgment and a great reset whereby Yeshua, Jesus, the only begotten Son of God, will reign and rule with absolute authority upon the earth? Would you believe it? Traditionally, the Jewish rabbis and sages of Israel have viewed the eclipses with a sense of foreboding. For example, in Sukkah 29a of the Talmud, which is the oral law or the rabbinic rulings and discussions about Bible passages, they speak of a solar eclipse, which will occur in the midst of the blood moon triad as being a bad omen for the entire world. Some of you will recall that a total solar eclipse occurred on August the 17th of 2017. This eclipse cut a diagonal path of darkness across the United States that started in Salem, Oregon. The name Salem refers to the royal city of Melchizedek and is traditionally identified with Jerusalem. This is evidenced in Psalm 76, verse 2, which uses Salem as a parallel for Zion, the citadel of Jerusalem. The same identification is made by Josephus in the Aramaic translations of the Bible. It is also interesting to note that as the darkness blanketed the city of Salem, the sun was setting in the city of Jerusalem, Israel. Furthermore, the path of darkness, what is known as totality, was exactly 70 miles wide. the number 7 being a divine number symbolizing perfection and completion. As the eclipse proceeded on its path, something else occurred that was by and large overlooked. The path of darkness that started at Salem, Oregon, proceeded and it moved right over Salem, Idaho, then Salem, Wyoming, then Salem, Nebraska, then Salem, Missouri, then Salem, Kentucky, and lastly, Salem, South Carolina. Now think about that for a moment. The sun is over 91 million miles and the moon at an average of 238,855 miles from the earth, and it cuts a path of darkness 70 miles wide, crossing over 7 cities with the biblical name of Salem. Who in their right mind would dismiss this as a mere coincidence? Moving forward 7 years, on April the 8th of 2024, there will be another total solar eclipse that will cut a diagonal path of darkness across the United States. This time, it will start at the west coast of Mexico and pass directly over Durango. Then it will cross into Texas, passing over Fredericksburg, Lampasas, Waco, Waxahachie, Fort Worth, and Dallas. It will continue on its northeasterly path and it will pass over Cleveland, Ohio, and Buffalo, New York. When you overlay the path of the coming April 2024 eclipse on top of the path of the eclipse that occurred in August of 2017, you will notice that they intersect at an area in southern Illinois. And you're going to love this. It's a place commonly referred to as Little Egypt. You may be asking yourself, well, why is southern Illinois called Little Egypt? Well, it is said that the name arose in the 1830s when a harsh winter caused a very poor harvest in the northern part of the state. The winter between 1830 and 1831 was known as the winter of the deep snow, and spring arrived late in that season. Later that September, an early frost ruined most of the season's crops. It was a very bad year for the folks in northern Illinois. Due to the lack of food, droves of people from the north headed south to buy grain, corn, and other supplies. During the trek, northerners associated themselves with the children of Jacob, who in a time of famine were forced to head south to Egypt in search of food for their families. Fleeing to the Carbondale region had essentially saved their lives, and the area was deemed Little Egypt. And this story has been supposedly documented in an article that was written by a judge by the name of Andrew Duff. I find it fascinating that some of the towns that are located in this area called Little Egypt are cities or towns called Cairo, Carmi, Dongola, Goshen Settlement, Karnak, and Thebes. As we look at this area called Little Egypt, one should note that Southeastern Illinois College is located in Harrisburg, and it was built in 1960. The college originally took a sphinx as the official college seal. Later, the pyramids were used as inspiration for the college's official logo. The college's sports teams also decided to use the falcon as the official mascot, which was meant to resemble Horus, who was a falcon-headed god in Egypt. At some point in history, it is said that Pharaoh identified himself with Horus, theologically giving him dominion and power over all of the world. Just to the west of Harrisburg is the city of Carbondale and the home of Southern Illinois University. Many people don't realize that Southern Illinois University's mascot was originally the Maroons. In 1951, the name was changed to the Salukis, an ancient breed of Egyptian hunting dog. Egyptian nobility considered the breed to be a valuable and honored companion. The Egyptians were known to mummify the dogs in the fashion of the pharaohs. The remains of dogs have been found in the tombs of the Upper Nile. In 1953, the school received their first real Saluki as a mascot, and they named him, get this, King Tut. In 2010, 2 gigantic concrete sphinx-like Salukis were installed high atop the stairway that guards the entrance to the Southern Illinois University Arena, while watching over the pyramid tomb of the university's beloved mascot, King Tut. I can only speculate, but I tend to believe that the ancient Egyptians would be flattered by the university's architecture and their emulation of their ancient culture. Now take a good look at this map. Notice the path of this coming eclipse. It shows that the city of Carbondale, the home of Southern Illinois University, is located dead center at the intersection point where it crosses the path of the 2017 solar eclipse. In fact, the path of darkness will also cover Harrisburg, the home of Southeastern Illinois College. For the biblical historian, these 2 eclipses are a fascinating reminder of the judgment and the plagues of ancient Egypt. We read in Exodus chapter 10, "Then Yahweh said to Moses, 'Stretch out your hand toward heaven so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be felt.'" Darkness over Egypt was the 9th and the final warning to Pharaoh. According to Scripture, at midnight on the 14th day of the first month, Yahweh went through all the land, bringing judgment and death to all the firstborn of Egypt. It is said that there was a loud cry in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. What makes these 2 eclipses even more apocalyptic is the fact that the area known as Little Egypt sits directly in the center of the New Madrid in the Wabash Valley seismic zones. The New Madrid is the most active seismic area in the United States east of the Rocky Mountains. Some scientists believe that there is a probability of a large earthquake, a magnitude 7 or 8, that could occur sometime in the future. If this were to occur, it is estimated that damages would be in the hundreds of billions of dollars. A 2004 report that was prepared by FEMA stated that nearly 730,000 people would be displaced from their home. Undoubtedly, that number would be much greater now. As you have seen throughout this video, the path of the eclipse of the 2017 and the one that is coming in 2024 make a gigantic X across the United States. This is significant because it is the last letter of the ancient Paleo-Hebrew alphabet. Those who have read the book of Revelation will remember the words of Yeshua, Jesus, who said, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." In Hebrew, it is written, "I am the Aleph and the Tav, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." In the book of Matthew, chapter 27, he states, "Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour." I believe that the darkness coming upon all the land corresponds to the darkness and the final warning that came over the land of Egypt. As Yeshua was suspended between heaven and earth upon the cross, pouring out his blood and making atonement for sin, the darkness served as a sign, an omen to the nation of Israel of the coming destruction of Jerusalem and the Holy Temple. While doing the research for this video, I was surprised at the number of study Bibles that offer no comment or commentary regarding Matthew's remarks about the darkness that came upon the land. However, I did find one comment that I want to share with you, and it comes from the Word Biblical Commentary, Volume 33b. It states, "The idea of the sun going down at midday is an apocalyptic image for a time of great sorrow and mourning employed in Amos chapter 8, verse 9. And he goes on to state that darkness is, of course, also a common metaphor for judgment that will come on the day of the Lord. The Bible is filled with warnings regarding the coming day of judgment. It is no small thing that a solar eclipse brings darkness upon the earth in the middle of the day. In Joel chapter 2 it states, "Blow a ram's horn in Zion. Shout an alarm on my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahweh comes. It is near. A day of darkness and gloom. A day of clouds and thick darkness, like blackness spread over the mountains." Then reading in verse 31, "The sun shall be changed to darkness, and the moon will become as red as blood before the great and terrifying day of Yahweh comes." And then in Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 15, he states that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and anguish, a day of destruction and devastation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness. Over the last several months, cities that are in the pathway of the coming 2024 eclipse have been preparing for hosting the large crowds of people who will be traveling from all over the world to view this awesome event. Schools, universities, astronomers will be hosting educational seminars and organizing watch parties. TV stations, newspapers, and magazines will be sending out reporters to broadcast and document the eclipse as it unfolds. People will be enthralled, oohing and eyeing with joy as they watch the day turn to night, when in fact they should be bowing their heads before the God of creation with heartache and sadness at God's warning of coming judgment. Friends, on April the 8th of 2024, Yahweh is giving a visible sign, an omen, to the peoples of the earth that they have ignored the light of His laws, His statutes, and His ordinances, and that His judgment and wrath are about to be poured full strength into the cup of His anger.